They didn't just remove my name from the guest list, they tried to erase my signature from the deed of the life I had built. The realization didn't come with a bang, but with the quiet, clinical chill of a single notification lighting up my phone screen. I was in my study, a mug of now tepid coffee resting in my hands, the ceramic warm against my palms. My husband, Liam, had left hours earlier, his footsteps a fading echo in the morning calm. I was scrolling aimlessly, a mindless habit to fill the silence, when a post from my niece, Clara, bloomed on the screen. It wasn't a casual snapshot, it was a professionally produced promotional video. Shimmering drone shots swooped over the cliffs, the waves crashing against the stone foundations of Seacliff Manor, the historic estate I had poured my soul into resurrecting. The caption glowed in elegant script. The countdown begins. The annual Vance Founders Gala at Seacliff is almost here. So proud of our family's enduring legacy. My thumb froze, hovering over the screen. In the video, my sister Victoria stood on the grand terrace, a terrace whose crumbling balustrade I had personally redesigned and overseen the restoration of her smile, as polished and hard as the marble beneath her feet. Seacliff isn't just a place, she cooed to an unseen interviewer, her voice dripping with manufactured grace. It's the heart of our family, a tradition we have a duty to protect. There was my mother, Eleanor, raising a champagne flute. My father, looking on with his usual detached silence. Everyone was there, laughing, celebrating on grounds I had saved from foreclosure, in rooms I had brought back from ruin. Every single person. Except for me. The video was a perfectly curated lie, and I was the ghost haunting its frames, a ghost who had paid for the very stones they stood upon. This wasn't just a party I wasn't invited to. This was the erasure of my existence from my own life's work. The coffee in my favorite mug had turned bitter and cold, a mirror to the stillness that was settling deep in my gut. This wasn't a mistake. This was a demolition. My hands didn't shake as I set the phone down, but my jaw ached from a pressure that had been building for years. I didn't reply to the flood of placating comments under Clara's post. Instead, I waited. Liam came home late, smelling of city air and exhaustion. I didn't bring it up at dinner. I waited until we were clearing the plates. The domestic ritual, a fragile shield against the conversation to come. Victoria posted a video about the Founders Gala, I said, my voice carefully neutral as I rinsed a plate. He sighed, loosening his tie. Yeah. Your mother mentioned it last week. Was I on the guest list? I asked, looking at his reflection in the dark kitchen window. He frowned, turning to face me. Of course you were. Amelia. It's your place. Why wouldn't you be? His answer was genuine, but it was the answer of a man who still believed in the comforting logic of fairness. A logic my family had abandoned long ago. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a message from Victoria herself. The text was a masterpiece of passive aggression. Amelia. Darling. I am absolutely mortified. The event planner must have used an old list when sending the digital invites. With all the stress you've been under finishing the West Wing, I honestly thought you'd appreciate a quiet weekend to yourself anyway. We'll miss you terribly. The lie was so blatant, so saccharine. It was almost impressive. Stress. I thrived on the work. She wasn't trying to spare me. She was trying to brand me as fragile. Unstable. I showed the text to Liam. He read it, his brow furrowed in annoyance. Look. It's Victoria being Victoria. It was probably a clumsy mistake. And now she's trying to cover for it. Don't let her get to you. It's not worth the fight. It wasn't a mistake. Liam. How can you be so sure? I didn't answer. That night, long after his breathing had evened out into sleep, I slipped out of bed and went to my study. As the sole proprietor and restorer of the estate, I had installed a state-of-the-art encrypted server, a digital fortress to hold the blueprints, contracts, and financial records of Seacliff. It was my digital vault. With a growing knot of dread in my stomach, I logged in, my fingers flying across the keyboard. I wasn't looking for an invitation. I was looking for a weapon. I started a search for my own name, filtering by documents created in the last 3 months. My heart stopped. There, in a folder mislabeled Vendor Contracts Q3, was a set of password-protected PDF files. The password was legacy, a word Victoria had been using like a mantra. The first document that opened was a formal legal petition. My eyes scanned the page, the legal jargon blurring into a single, horrifying narrative. It was a petition, drafted by a high-priced law firm I didn't recognize, to have me, Amelia Vance, declared mentally unfit to continue managing the Seacliff estate. It cited my erratic behavior, my obsessive work habits, and my emotional exhaustion as reasons why control should be transferred to a more stable family member, Victoria. My breath hitched. It was worse than I could have imagined. But the final page was the masterstroke. Attached was a scanned letter, purportedly from my longtime therapist, recommending a period of intense rest and removal of all significant responsibilities. It looked authentic. The letterhead was perfect. Except for one detail, I hadn't seen my therapist in over 6 months. The letter was a forgery. This wasn't an exclusion. It was a coup. A meticulous, cold-blooded plan to steal my life's work by branding me as insane. The next morning, I waited for Liam in the kitchen. I said nothing, just turned my laptop toward him. He scanned the first page of the petition, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief. Then he saw the therapist's letter. He read it once, then twice. The color drained from his face. The casual calm he always wore vanished, replaced by a glacial fury I had never seen before. He slowly lifted his eyes from the screen to meet mine. "She forged this," he said, his voice flat and dangerous. It wasn't a question. Yes. He slammed the laptop shut, the crack echoing in the silent kitchen. "This isn't just her being a bitch. Amelia, this is criminal." He paced the room, his hands clenched into fists. "All this time, I told you to keep the peace. I told you not to rise to her bait. I was wrong. I was so damn wrong." He stopped and came to me, gripping my shoulders. His eyes burned with a protective fire. "That ends now. This isn't your fight anymore. It's our fight." We didn't pack a suitcase. We packed an arsenal. A slim leather briefcase containing my laptop, a portable hard drive with encrypted backups, and 2 pristine, notarized copies of the petition. The drive to Seacliff was a 2-hour corridor of tense silence. We weren't strategizing revenge. We were preparing for a declaration of truth. Liam drove, his hand steady on the wheel, his jaw set. He didn't ask if I was ready. He knew. For the first time, I wasn't walking toward my family hoping for a seat. I was walking toward them to reclaim the entire table. We arrived as the sun bled into the horizon, casting the stone manor in hues of orange and gold. The long driveway was lined with luxury cars, their polished surfaces reflecting the glittering lights of the gala. At the grand entrance, a valet rushed forward, but Victoria had been waiting. She stood flanked by 2 security guards I didn't recognize, her sequined dress shimmering. "Amelia," she said, her voice a low hiss, her smile never reaching her eyes. "What a surprise. I told you. You weren't on the list." "Your list doesn't matter, Victoria," I said calmly. I looked past her to the head of estate security, a man named Marcus, whom I had hired myself. "Marcus, please escort my husband and me inside." Marcus, a stoic ex-military man, met my gaze, and gave a single, sharp nod. Right away. Mrs. Vance. He stepped forward, and Victoria's hired guards instinctively parted, her face contorted in a brief flash of fury before rearranging itself into a mask of strained composure. We walked past her without another word, the sound of her stunned silence more satisfying than any argument. The grand ballroom was breathtaking, filled with the murmur of 100 conversations, the clinking of crystal, and the soft strains of a string quartet. Victoria had outdone herself. Investors, local dignitaries, art patrons, everyone who mattered in our coastal enclave was there. We took a position near the back, 2 silent observers in a sea of celebration. Liam's hand rested on the small of my back, a solid, unwavering presence. Minutes later, Victoria swept to the podium, tapping a glass for attention. The room fell silent. "Welcome," she began, her voice resonating with warmth and authority. "Welcome to our home, Seacliff. It's moments like these that remind us what truly endures: legacy, tradition, and the strength of a family that carries that legacy forward with intention." Her eyes scanned the crowd, deliberately avoiding me. "We are merely stewards of this beautiful place, guardians of a story that began long before us." That was my cue. As she raised her glass for a toast, I began to walk toward the stage. A ripple of whispers followed me. Liam was right behind me, a formidable shadow. Victoria's eyes widened in panic, her rehearsed speech faltering. "Victoria, that was a beautiful sentiment," I said, my voice clear and steady, amplified by the room's acoustics. I didn't wait for an invitation. I stepped onto the low stage beside her. "You speak of legacy and stewardship. I'd like to contribute to that conversation." Before she could react, I had opened my laptop and connected it to the large projector screen behind the stage. Her smiling face, part of a curated slideshow, was replaced by the stark, black and white text of the legal petition. A collective gasp swept through the ballroom. I used the mouse to slowly scroll, letting them read the damning phrases: mentally unfit, erratic behavior, transfer of control. I let the image hang in the air for a moment, the silence thick with shock. "This," I announced, my voice ringing with cold clarity, "is the document my sister commissioned. Her vision for stewarding the family legacy by having me legally erased." Victoria was ashen, speechless. That's not," she stammered. "But a forged document is just paper," I continued, my voice dropping slightly. "Sometimes, to understand the truth, you need to hear it from the source." I clicked a new file, a sound file, and from the speakers, Victoria's own voice filled the ballroom crisp, clear, and utterly damning. "She built it, but I was born to run it. We just need to move her out of the way gracefully." The recording ended. The silence that followed was absolute. It was the sound of a reputation being vaporized. Victoria stood frozen, a statue of public humiliation. Every eye in the room was on her, not with sympathy, but with a dawning, horrified understanding. The legacy she had tried so desperately to claim had just been immolated by her own words. I looked at her, my expression not of triumph, but of finality. I hadn't come to fight. I had come to end the fight. And I had. No one applauded. The string quartet did not resume playing. The gala ended not with a bang, but with a mass exodus. Guests fled the ballroom, their faces a mixture of shock and pity, carrying the scandal with them like a party favor. My mother, Eleanor, simply turned and walked away without a word, her back rigid. Victoria remained on the stage, a desolate island in a sea of empty chairs, her perfect world fractured beyond repair. We didn't stay to watch her crumble. We had already left. The next morning, Liam sat at our kitchen table, his phone to his ear. "That's correct," he said, his voice calm and resolute. "Defamation, forgery, and conspiracy to commit fraud. I want to proceed with everything we have. No settlements. No negotiations." He was speaking to his firm's senior litigation partner. There was no anger left in him. Only a quiet, surgical precision. He was building a wall of consequences around me, one I had never known how to build for myself. Later that day, a call came from an unexpected source, our family's lawyer. A man who had known me since I was a child. "Amelia," he began, his voice heavy with shame. "I want to apologize. Victoria came to me with those documents. I told her it was madness. But I didn't refuse. I should have called you immediately. I let my loyalty to the family name cloud my duty to the law. And to you. I'm resigning as their counsel. And I'll provide a full statement to your attorney." It wasn't forgiveness I felt, but a sliver of restored faith in the truth. The most surprising call came from my niece, Clara. Her voice was small, trembling. "Aunt Amelia, I am so sorry. I had no idea. I just thought," Mom said. She trailed off. "What she did? It was monstrous. But you built all of that. By yourself. I want to build something real one day. Too. Could I? Could I talk to you about it sometime?" In her hesitant request, I heard the faint echo of a new legacy, beginning one built on merit. Not manipulation. "Yes. Clara," I said warmly. "Of course." Weeks passed. The legal battle churned on in the background. A distant machine of justice. One afternoon, while sorting through my grandfather's old library at Seacliff, I found his original architectural sketchbook, tucked between yellowed pages of structural designs. I found a small, folded note in his familiar, sharp handwriting. It read, "A foundation is worthless if you build someone else's house on it. Build yours." I sat with that piece of paper for a long time. The words, a key unlocking the final door to my own peace. That evening, I didn't host a gala. I set a small, simple table on the terrace overlooking the ocean. The grand dining room remained dark. Liam was there, along with Marcus, our head of security, and a few of the architects and artisans who had bled and sweat with me to bring Seacliff back to life. This was my real family, the one connected not by blood, but by shared purpose and mutual respect. We didn't make grand toasts. We talked, we laughed, and we shared a meal as the waves crashed below, looking at the faces around me, illuminated by the soft glow of candlelight. I understood. I hadn't fought for a seat at their table. I had finally realized I was sitting at the head of my own. If this story of finding your voice in the silence resonated with you, and if you believe in the power of building your own table, show some love by hitting that like button, sharing it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribing for more stories about reclaiming your power. Let me know in the comments what's one table you're proud to have built for yourself.